There are moments in this job that test everything you believe about courage, about nature, and about the thin line between life and death. I'm Marcus Thompson, and after 15 years leading wildlife rescue operations across East Africa, I thought I'd seen the worst that nature could throw at any living creature. But what happened at the Mara River crossing 3 months ago? It still wakes me up in cold sweats, and honestly, it changed everything I thought I knew about the brutal reality of survival in the wild. The emergency call came through our radio at 2:17 p.m. on a scorching Thursday afternoon. The voice belonged to David Kimani, one of our most experienced field scouts, and I could hear something in his tone that I'd never heard before, pure, unfiltered terror. "Marcus," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the static, "you need to get to the northern crossing point immediately. There's a situation here that, God help me, I don't even know how to describe it." When a man who's spent 23 years tracking wildlife across the Masai Mara tells you he can't describe what he's seeing, you know you're about to face something that defies every protocol in the book. My team and I loaded our emergency response vehicle with every piece of equipment we had. Tranquilizer guns, medical supplies, rope systems, even our heavy-duty winch equipment that we rarely use. The drive to the river felt like an eternity. Every mile we covered, I kept trying to imagine what could possibly shake David like that. This man had witnessed lion attacks, leopard hunts, the chaos of the Great Migration. He'd seen elephants charge rhinos, hippos destroy crocodiles, nature at its most violent and unforgiving. What could terrify someone with that kind of experience? As we approached the river crossing, the first thing I noticed was the silence. The Mara River is usually alive with sound, birds calling, hippos grunting, the splash of animals drinking at the water's edge. But as we got closer, everything had gone completely quiet, as if the entire ecosystem was holding its breath, waiting for something catastrophic to unfold. David met us at the riverbank, his face ashen, sweat pouring down his forehead despite being in the shade. His hands were shaking as he pointed toward a bend in the river, about 300 meters downstream. "She's been there since early morning," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The crocodile. Marcus, I've never seen anything like it. It's massive and it's got her trapped." I raised my binoculars and focused on the area he indicated. What I saw through those lenses made my blood turn to ice. There, standing chest-deep in the muddy water of the Mara River, was a female elephant, but she wasn't drinking or bathing like elephants normally do. She was completely motionless, frozen in terror, and circling her in the water was the largest Nile crocodile I had ever encountered in my entire career. This wasn't just any crocodile. This monster had to be at least 18 feet long, maybe 20, with a head the size of a small car and jaws that could snap a tree trunk in half. Its eyes, those cold, prehistoric eyes, were locked onto the elephant with the patience of a predator that had been perfecting its hunting technique for millions of years. But here's what made my heart sink into my stomach. This elephant wasn't alone. Through my binoculars, I could see the telltale signs that she was heavily pregnant, probably only weeks away from giving birth. Her belly was swollen, her movements were careful and protective, and every few minutes she would let out this low, rumbling call that I recognized as a mother's distress signal. The crocodile had positioned itself strategically between the elephant and the shallow water where she could safely exit the river. Every time she tried to move toward the bank, the massive reptile would surge forward with incredible speed, its jaws snapping just inches from her legs, forcing her back into the deeper water where she was most vulnerable. What made this situation even more terrifying was the crocodile's hunting strategy. It wasn't attacking immediately. It was wearing her down, exhausting her, waiting for the perfect moment when fatigue would make her vulnerable. And with each passing hour, the pregnant elephant was growing weaker, her energy reserves depleting as she fought to keep herself and her unborn calf alive. My team looked at me with a mixture of determination and fear. Sarah, our veterinarian, was already calculating the risks of tranquilizing a pregnant elephant under extreme stress. Mike, our equipment specialist, was assessing whether our gear could handle a rescue operation in crocodile-infested waters. But I knew what everyone was thinking. How do you rescue a 3-ton pregnant elephant from an 18-foot crocodile without getting everyone killed in the process? The standard protocol for crocodile encounters is simple. Maintain distance and let nature take its course. But this wasn't just nature taking its course. This was a pregnant mother fighting for 2 lives. And something deep in my core told me that if we didn't act immediately, we'd be witnessing a tragedy that would haunt this entire river system. I made the decision that would either save 2 lives or potentially cost us everything. "We're going in," I announced to my team, "but we're going to need to be smarter than that crocodile, and we're going to need to move faster than anything we've ever done before." The plan was risky, borderline insane. We would use our vehicle's winch system to create a distraction on one side of the river while simultaneously creating a safe corridor for the elephant to escape on the other side. But first, we needed to get that crocodile's attention away from its prey. Mike attached our heaviest rope to a large piece of driftwood, and we used the winch to drag it through the water about 50 meters upstream from where the elephant was trapped. The splashing and commotion immediately caught the crocodile's attention, and for the first time in hours, those cold, predatory eyes looked away from the elephant. That was our window. Sarah and I moved to the opposite bank with our tranquilizer equipment, not to sedate the elephant. That would have been fatal in her condition, but to create noise and movement that would encourage her to move toward the shallow water while the crocodile was distracted. What happened next was the most terrifying 60 seconds of my entire career. The crocodile, realizing it had been deceived, spun around in the water with a speed that defied physics. Its massive tail thrashed, sending waves across the river, and it began charging toward the elephant with its jaws wide open, revealing rows of teeth that looked like railroad spikes. The elephant, sensing her chance, began moving toward the shallow water with a determination that only a mother protecting her young could possess. But the crocodile was faster, and for a moment, I thought we were going to watch this magnificent creature and her unborn calf become prey right in front of us. Then, something incredible happened. Just as the crocodile closed the distance, the elephant did something I'd never seen before in all my years of wildlife observation. She reared up on her hind legs, using her massive weight and the river bottom for leverage, and brought her front feet down on the crocodile's head with a force that sent shockwaves through the water. The impact was so powerful that it stunned the crocodile momentarily, giving the elephant just enough time to push through to the shallow water. But the crocodile recovered quickly and made one last desperate lunge, its jaws snapping shut just inches from the elephant's hind leg. With one final surge of maternal strength, the elephant hauled herself out of the river and onto the muddy bank, water streaming from her massive body, her sides heaving as she gasped for air. She stood there for a moment, looking back at the water where the crocodile was now circling in frustration, then let out a trumpeting call that I can only describe as a victory cry mixed with relief. The crocodile, deprived of its prey and probably nursing a significant headache, slowly sank back into the murky water and disappeared into the depths of the river. We monitored the elephant from a safe distance for the next several hours, and I'm thrilled to report that 5 weeks later, she successfully gave birth to a healthy calf in the safety of the reserve's interior. That day taught me something profound about the power of maternal instinct and the incredible will to survive that exists in nature is most magnificent creatures. It also reminded me that sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is create an opportunity for someone else to save themselves. But what struck me most was the elephant's intelligence in that final moment. The way she used her environment and her own strength to fight back against a predator that had terrorized the river for decades. It was a reminder that in the animal kingdom, mothers will do absolutely anything to protect their young. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed an incredible display of maternal courage in the wild? Or maybe you've seen an animal overcome impossible odds to protect their offspring. Share your stories with our community, because these moments remind us why wildlife conservation is so crucial. And if this story gave you chills like it still gives me, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real rescue stories from the African wilderness. Because sometimes the difference between becoming prey and becoming a survivor comes down to a mother's love and a split-second decision that changes everything.